What's going on, floor shoppers? Ben here with Corona Hardwood. Welcome to another informative episode of Flooring You Can Trust. In this episode, we're going to go over the overwhelming topic of transition moldings. In this video, specifically, we're going to be addressing luxury vinyl plank and SPC molding options. We'll go over the different standard types, the application and function of these moldings, also give you some alternative options for stairs, teach you how to measure and make sure that you don't run short. Also give you some helpful hints at the end and answer some of the commonly asked questions and comments by consumers. If this is the first time you're hearing about transition moldings or your knowledge is very limited and you learned something new in this video, hit that thumbs up button down below. Really helps us out. All right, let's jump right into the different profiles available. So first one we're going to go over is the stair nose. Most manufacturers will have some kind of option to finish your stairs. So stair nose gives you a nice finish edge on the edge of your step. Just as the name infers, it's just like the nose on your face, except it's the nose on the face of a step. Some people will also refer to these as bullnose moldings. Typically, it'll be one of two options. You'll either have an overlap stair nose option or a flush stair nose option. Some manufacturers will actually offer both, which is nice. So the flush stair nose gives you a flush surface on the top of your floor. So a nice flush transition from your floorboard to the stair nose. The overlap stair nose overlaps on top of your step and gives you a raised trim molding on the edge of your step. So you may be asking, why would somebody want to use an overlap stair nose versus the flush stair nose? Well, to be honest with you, 99% of our customers prefer the flush stair nose. The reason being, it gives you the most realistic hardwood look and also gives you a nice, clean, finished edge. But in some cases, you may be required to use an overlap stair nose. So check with your installer before you order. I'll give you an example of when you might need to use an overlap stair nose. So if you could imagine going up your staircase up to the hallway upstairs, if your flooring is going to be running perpendicular to the top step or at a diagonal, you're going to need to use an overlap stair nose to cover that cut edge. The only time you can use a flush stair nose is if you have the tongue intact on your floor planks and they're running the same direction as the stair nose. Next option we're going to talk about is the T-Molding. Back when I was learning these trim moldings almost 2 decades ago, T-Molding was the easiest one to remember because it's the shape of a T. So what a T-Molding does is joins 2 floors of equal height or pretty close to equal height. I say pretty close to equal height because if the floors are slightly off by 1/8 of an inch or so, you can angle these and have a nice smooth transition between the floors. So usually it'll be vinyl to tile or vinyl to laminate. As long as you're joining 2 floors that are a hard surface and are about equal height, you'll be using a T-Molding. Next, we'll go into the end cap. So this is also a very commonly used molding profile. This one's a little bit tricky to remember because it has a lot of different names. End molding, end cap, threshold, L molding. I've heard every name in the book for this molding. But essentially what it does is ends your floor and caps it off. Hence the name end cap. So common uses for this will be like an exterior door, like a front door or a garage door, sliding glass door. You can also use this molding around fireplaces. So if you have a raised brick fireplace or stone fireplace and you want to encase that fireplace, you'll be using an end cap molding. And probably the most common use is if you're transitioning to carpet. So you're going to cap off your floor with this end cap and then tuck the carpet right up to it for a nice clean transition. Next, we're going to go into the reducer molding. Again, just as the name infers, it reduces from the height of the floor down to ground level. So if you have an 8mm luxury vinyl floor, it'll reduce by 8 millimeters. So common use for this will be transitioning from vinyl plank flooring to, let's say, a stone tile in your bathroom, and the stone is approximately 8 millimeters higher than your vinyl plank floor. So again, you'll transition from the stone down to your vinyl plank flooring. This can also be used to transition from your vinyl plank flooring down to a very thin floor like a linoleum flooring. Lastly, we have the quarter round molding. Again, just as the name infers, it's a quarter of a round circle, so pretty easy to remember. Common uses for quarter round molding will be in place of an end cap molding, so you can use it in front of your door thresholds, in front of a sliding glass door. You could even use it around a raised fireplace. Also, you can use it in front of any cabinets that you'd like. Some people like to use the quarter round molding around the perimeter of every single room. I don't particularly like that. It's pretty bulky, it matches the floor, so it kind of appears like the floor is crawling up on the walls. So those are the most commonly offered options by most manufacturers. All right, let's jump right into alternative options for stairs. So there are a few select manufacturers out there that will offer alternative options for your stairs. Something that's unique is square stair nose. This gives you a nice, clean, modern look. So here's one example that we have. This is by a company called ProTech. And again, just gives you a nice custom look, something different than the standard bullnose that is offered by most manufacturers. This has become very popular in hardwood flooring, and now there's a few manufacturers that offer it for luxury vinyl plank flooring. Here's another option that's available by Nexicor. Again, same idea. You get a nice modern squared off stair nose, and just really a game changer when it comes to the look that it offers for your flooring. Next we have engineered square stair nose. So these are really cool. So there's some manufacturers out there that are now making engineered square stair nose. And what I mean by engineered is they actually take a plank of your floor and wrap it around and make it into a stair nose. The beauty about these is it's made out of the same exact material, has the same exact color, and the same texture, so it's guaranteed to match your floor. You get a nice wide profile if you got a wide plank, and you have your locking mechanism intact. So these are really neat. We'll be offering these shortly here at Corona Hardwood, so if you're interested, give us a call. All right, so another alternative option that's offered by a few manufacturers is stair treads. That's right. Stair treads have been offered in hardwood flooring pretty much since the beginning of time. Gives you a nice solid piece on top of your step, so you're not dealing with multiple planks. Pretty easy to install. So there's a few manufacturers that offer these, Portec being one of the big name brand that offers them. Gemcore is another one that offers it. I think there's a few other select brands that offer it. So these are pretty cool if you want a nice clean look on your stair. There is some downsides to these though. They are made out of a different material, so they're gonna feel a little bit different than your flooring. Texture might be slightly off because they're made by a different manufacturer. Usually the color will be the same because it's a printed image. And there are some other limitations. Usually they're only offered either 3 or 4 foot sections, and not all of them offer a return on the side. So if you have open-ended steps, typically you won't be able to use this. I know Portec does offer returns, but usually they're not in stock. All right, now we're gonna talk about measuring and making sure you have enough pieces for your installer to complete the job. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get a week after we sell a job and they say, I need 1 more stair nose or 2 more T-Moldings. Well, the reason is because they didn't measure properly. So when you're measuring for stair nose, for instance, you have to think of the pieces as whole pieces. You can't just add up all the measurements and divide it by the length of the piece and figure out how many pieces you need. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a typical staircase of 15 stairs. The stairs are 36 inches long or 3 feet. So you multiply 3 times 15, gives you 45. You go to the manufacturer, or you go to the store that you're ordering from, and you ask them, how long are the stair nose? And they say 8 feet. 8 feet is pretty standard for luxury vinyl plank and SPC flooring options. So that's pretty basic math. You multiply 8 times 6, you get 48. I need 6 pieces. So you order 6 pieces, installer gets to the job site, starts installing the stairs, and runs short and says, I need 2 more pieces. Why did he run short? Because you need to think of them as whole pieces. If you have 3-foot steps, you need to think about how many 3-foot sections can I get out of that 8-foot piece? And the answer is 2. So really what you should have ordered is 8 stair nose to complete 15 steps that are 3 foot long. So you will have some scrap pieces like a 2-foot section that you can't use, but you'd never want to put a 2-foot and a 1-foot section on the edge of a step. You need a whole piece to complete the step. When you're transporting or storing your moldings, make sure that you're storing them flat. I'll give you an example. You may or may not be able to see this. This molding here is pretty warped. The reason is it was stored probably in the back of a truck. So if you could imagine, you send your installer to pick up your flooring, they put the pallet in the back of their truck, and then they put this molding, or a bunch of these moldings, hanging on the top of their lift gate. It's middle of summer, 100 degrees outside. It's a 45-minute drive for him to get to you. Well, these moldings are made out of plastic, and if you add heat to the mix, they will warp. So moldings always need to be stored flat, preferably on the floor, on a flat surface. You never want to store the moldings leaning up against the wall. All right, on to your commonly asked questions and comments. So one of the biggest questions I get from floor shoppers is, do I really have to put T-Moldings in my floor? I want a clean floor. I don't want any transitions. I'm going into the bathrooms with this vinyl plank flooring. I don't want any transitions. I don't want any breaks. So do I have to use T-Moldings in the doorways, or do I need to use the end caps up against the sliding glass door or at the carpet transitions? So let's talk about the T-Molding first. So again, this joins 2 floors that are equal height. So a lot of manufacturers will require that you use a T-Molding in the doorways, transitioning from the hallway to a bedroom, for instance. So make sure you read the manufacturer's instructions or ask the salesperson that you're working with if this brand requires me to use T-Moldings in those areas. Because if they do and you don't use it, you will void your warranty and possibly cause issues with your floor. So the other area that people commonly ask me about is, what about vinyl plank to tile? Do I need a T-Molding there? The tile and the vinyl plank are approximately the same height. Do I really need to put a T-Molding? So the answer to that question is yes, you do need a T-Molding because you need an expansion gap around the whole perimeter of the flooring. If you don't have an expansion gap and you butt it up directly up to your tile, now the floor is going to be pinched there. If you have any expansion, you're going to have problems with your floor and it's going to start buckling. So you can avoid using a T-Molding at your own risk. Just know that it won't be warranted by the manufacturer. If you ever have an issue with your floor and they come out to inspect it and they see that you butted your flooring up directly up against your tile, they're going to mark that down, and that can possibly void your warranty if that's what caused the floor to fail. Now when it comes to end caps and carpet transitions, I would say do not avoid using these moldings because, again, you have a floating floor. Floating floors will have some deflection. They'll move up and down, and you really need something to hold the flooring down at that transition. Also, up against sliding glass doors, exterior doors, you can do something similar to the T-mold option with vinyl to tile. You can leave a 1/4 inch gap, glue that edge of vinyl plank, and fill it in with a color match caulking. So that is an option, but again, it's not warranted by the manufacturer, so do it at your own risk and make sure your installer is comfortable with doing that. All right, commonly asked question number 2, how do I install these moldings? So most consumers are used to laminate floors and they would come with a track. So you would either glue the track down to your concrete floor or screw it into your plywood subfloor, and then you would just snap the moldings right into the track. Well, for many years now, a lot of installers take those tracks and they just throw them right in the trash. Main reason is they don't do a proper job of holding your molding in place. It may last for a few months, but over time, those tracks will loosen up and the molding will pop out of place. So the best way to install all the moldings is going to be with a construction adhesive. So make sure you're using a construction adhesive that bonds to plastic, because this is an issue that we saw early on. People were just going to Home Depot and picking up the cheapest construction adhesive they could, but not all of them bond to plastic. So as long as it's a construction adhesive that bonds to plastic, you shouldn't have any issue, and these should be glued directly down to your subfloor. When it comes to stairs, stairs are always going to be full spread adhesive on the entire step. So not only are you going to glue down the stair nose, but you're also going to glue down the floor plank. Check with the manufacturer that you're installing. Some manufacturers will actually require you to remove the underlayment on the bottom of the floor plank before you glue it down, because as you'll notice, the stair nose typically don't have an underlayment, and you want to have the same height. And also, these underlayments, depending on the adhesive that they use, they're not always attached very well, so that'll be the point of weakness. If you don't remove the underlayment, your underlayment might stay glued to the step, but the rest of the plank might come off over time. One thing you definitely do not want to do when installing vinyl plank or SPC transition moldings is using a finish nailer. Now, you can use that with hardwood moldings, but if you try that on your vinyl plank floors, you're going to ruin the trim molding, and you're going to have to end up spending another $1,000 on trim molding. So you installers out there, make sure you're not using finished nails on these trim moldings. I've seen it done before, so I know you're out there. Listen up. One comment that I've heard from customers from time to time is, my trim molding doesn't match my floor. This is something that we deal with hardwood all the time, because trim molding in hardwood is typically made by a different manufacturer than the actual flooring, made in a different factory, has a different finish, lumber came from a different place, so it's more commonly seen in hardwood flooring. When it comes to vinyl plank flooring, usually that's not the case because we have a printed image, so you have to be careful when you're installing the floor. The trim molding will match a portion of your floor, but realize that your floor has color variation. It has planks that are light, medium, and dark. If your stair nose are light and you're installing it with a dark plank, you're taking two of the highest contrasts in that floor and putting them together. So it may appear that it doesn't match, but in actuality, it does match the overall look of the floor. So you need to determine, do I want my stairs to look uniform? If that's the case, make sure you're picking out the lightest planks, using them with the lightest stair nose. If you want the same contrast that you're seeing in your overall floor, then you can use light stair nose with a medium tone plank or a dark tone plank. So just keep that in mind. Usually they do match. The texture is not always going to be the same because, again, a lot of the stair nose profiles are made on a different material. Your flooring might be registered embossed. The stair nose may not be. But as long as it's 90–95% match, that's all we're looking for. One common complaint that I get from homeowners and typically installers who really aren't experienced in installing luxury vinyl plank flooring or hardwood flooring, generally they're going to be general contractors, jack of all trades, and they'll call me up and say, there's something wrong with our stair nose. I think they're defective. They're not locking in with our flooring planks. So we're going to put a halt to our installation. We need to figure this out. You need to give me an option that's going to lock in to our floor planks, because otherwise we can't move on. The reality is 99% of manufacturers are not going to have a locking stair nose. Yes, there is a groove and there is a tongue, just like you'd have on a hardwood floor, but it's not meant to lock in. What's going to hold these down is the adhesive on the bottom that's going to hold them to your subfloor. The tongue and groove is there just to make sure that you have a flush surface on top. So it's just there to guide it until the glue sets in. All right, that covers basically everything you need to know about trim molding available for luxury vinyl plank flooring and SPC floors. If there's something you think that I missed, if you have a question or comment about something that I've said, leave it in the comments down below. Love to hear from you, love to answer all your questions. But until next time, I'm Ben with Corona Hardwood, flooring you can trust.